Hello and welcome everyone to the awards ceremony of the Volvo Environment Prize 2021. I am Niklas Gustafsson. I'm the secretary to the board of the Volvo Environment Prize Foundation. We are sending live here from a studio in Gothenburg, Sweden today, and we will be talking about the green chemistry revolution. Because our laureate this year, Paul Anastas, is a scientist who is sometimes called the father of green chemistry. The research of Professor Anastas is described by the prize jury as revolutionizing the chemical industry, a key contribution to meeting the sustainability challenge. We will soon get to know more about the research of Professor Anastas, who is live with us here in the studio today. Later on, we will be talking about the role of green chemistry and new materials in climate change and in the race towards net zero emissions. Participating will be, of course, our laureate, but also experts from the World Economic Forum, from Yale School of the Environment, and from Stockholm University. There will also be celebrations, entertainment, and much more. But first, what is the Volvo Environment Prize?
The Volvo Environment Prize Foundation is rewarding path-breaking science. For over 30 years, this award has gone to people dedicated to the understanding of our environment. Researchers, scientists, professors. From all over the globe, across countless fields of research. From biodiversity to technology, from the cryosphere to the atmosphere, awarding those who pursue the most important knowledge of all, how to make a lasting world. How we tackle the enormous sustainability challenges ahead must be guided by science. That is the reason for the Volvo Environment Prize's existence. But the prize doesn't exist just to tell the scientists good job. It's also here to tell everyone else to listen and to act.
In the studio with us here today, we have Martin Lundstedt, President and CEO of Volvo Group, and also the Chairman of the Environment Prize board. Martin, this is the 32nd year of the award. And why did Volvo initiate this prize to start with? And,
A couple of reasons, Niklas. First and foremost, great to be here. The most important is that we believe in science. Science as an inspiring source of innovation. But also the very close connection to environment in the Volvo DNA. Driving sustainability. And that's the reason why we set up an independent foundation in the late 1980s. And that has served the purpose as well to support science. Volvo Group, of course, is leading the way to fossil-free transports and infrastructure now. And of course, the electrification and to have fossil-free solutions when it comes to the propulsion systems. But in addition to that, also, of course, also input material. And today's theme is very important to us. And of course, what we have seen over all these years, the laureates' influence on regulatory frameworks, on authorities, on politicians, but also on business.
And you were mentioning this, that the prize is actually completely independent from Volvo Group. And why is that important?
No, because free science is the best science in order to get the freedom to really go deep into knowledge about different type of challenges. And the independent setup has worked really well. We have an independent prize jury, but we also have an independent scientific committee that is scanning the world for the absolute best scientists in driving research and innovation for a sustainable future. So that has been the setup, and it's serving us really well.
Yeah, it does. Martin, we attended the COP26 in Glasgow a couple of weeks back.
Absolutely.
And we met with the laureate there and with students and faculty members from the Yale University. And we discussed the role about climate change and the role of business and science in here. And we will talk more about this in a short while. But we were actually curious about the university's role when it comes to innovative thinking and cooperation between business and science. So we sent a film team to Yale University to talk with one of the faculty staff members there, Urvi Talati.
I think that science, society, business, they're all so close together currently, and I think that is something that's unprecedented and something that really works. In my opinion, in my work in innovation, I think collaboration is really key, and these are some key partners that can make something happen that we haven't seen before. Something Professor Anastas mentioned during the event in Glasgow with the Volvo Group was that green chemistry really needs the power of storytelling, and I just think that this is a great opportunity to really bring forward these new ways of thinking. For me, the biggest reflection was to see that someone who's such a big leader in science and someone who's such a big leader in business can come together and create a conversation that's honest and acknowledges the things that have happened in the past. But I think businesses really need to be thinking about how they can strategically invest in these solutions and make sure that these innovations are getting accelerated. And I think the other important piece is policy. Policy is something that really drives forward innovation, and so I think that there needs to be more support for new technologies and new innovations that are coming out, and then allowing businesses to use those policy and regulatory frameworks to help accelerate these new scientific ideas and solutions.
Martin, what are your reflections from the COP26?
First and foremost, and the most important, is that the Paris Agreement from COP21 in 2015 is still alive. And that is important because before that we were heading towards a global warming of more than 4 degrees. Now we can say that, of course, higher ambitions should have been needed in certain regions. But at the same time, I think that we are getting there with also a clear rule book is important. And the other factor with these agreements is also the involvement of business. We see the movement of science-based targets. We have put very tough targets on our own operations, but also when it comes to CO2 reductions from emissions of transport and infrastructure, but also other companies are moving in that direction. More than 2,000 companies are adhering to the science-based targets. That gives transparency both internally and externally, and very important to continue to drive the change. So you always want more. The theme on price on carbon is a very important one, for example, but I think steps in the right direction.
Yeah. And we heard here in the video clip Urvi talking about the interaction here between academia and business and industry and so on. What are your thoughts about that?
First and foremost, the panel that Urvi was referring to here was fantastic. Of course, to have the opportunity to talk to Professor Anastas and around this very important topic and how we can interact and do things together, but also the young staff and the young students. Urvi was one of them. And their views on the speed, to speed up the speed, but also how important it is to these talented young students and researchers to work for both organizations and companies that are actually standing behind some of the core values in their world. And that is, of course, inspiring to us as well. So it goes really hand in hand, business, academia, but also, as was mentioned here, also that we are moving the needle when it comes to regulatory frameworks, for example. So everyone has to participate.
Yeah, exactly. The Volvo Environment Prize has for more than 3 decades now been awarded annually to people that have been making outstanding scientific discoveries within sustainability. Some researchers have actually received the Volvo Environment Prize before they later on then received the Nobel Prize.
For the 3rd time, a Volvo Environment Prize laureate is also awarded the Nobel Prize. The Nobel Prize in Physics 2021 was shared between three scientists. One of them was Sukuro Manabe of Princeton University in the USA. He was awarded for the physical modeling of Earth's climate, predicting global warming.
Most interesting research is curiosity-driven research.
Sukuro Manabe was already in 1997 awarded the Volvo Environment Prize for this type of research. During the 1960s, he led the development of physical models for the climate, demonstrating the effects of carbon dioxide emissions. In this way, he laid the foundation for today's climate change models. Two other scientists were first awarded the Volvo Environment Prize and later the Nobel Prize. Bangladesh economist and Harvard graduate Muhammad Yunus won the Volvo Environment Prize in 2003 for his work to tackle poverty and create jobs through microfinancing.
Zero poverty, zero net carbon emission. That's the world that I would like to be involved with.
3 years later, in 2006, Yunus became a Nobel Peace Prize laureate for his efforts to create economic and social development from below. Atmospheric scientist Paul Crutzen received the Volvo Environment Prize in 1991 for his findings on the ozone layer depletion.
There's very little ozone in the troposphere. Almost everything is in the stratosphere.
4 years later, this research also earned Paul Crutzen a shared Nobel Prize in chemistry.
Martin, is this impressive or what? We have a scientific committee and a prize jury that really seems to know science, right?
Absolutely, and when you see also the width of different topics and areas of research and science, you're getting both impressed and touched, actually. But I think that is important also because there is such a vast area of exploration when it comes to tackle also the challenges for the planet for the future. And the role of the jury and the scientific committee is very, very important, and is really based on their work that the prize has a strong legacy. So we are really working with that setup also for the coming years. And the prize is here not only to reward and to honor great scientists, but also to tell to all of us what is happening and to make us act upon those facts and outcomes.
Thank you very much, Martin. You will be back soon when it's time for the award to Professor Anastas.
Absolutely.
We have a tradition here at the Volvo Environment Prize to do a film about the laureate and send a film team home and to the working place of the laureate. So we sent science and environment reporter Claes Sjöberg and filmmaker Tore Marklund to Yale University.
Yale is one of the famous 8 so-called Ivy League universities in the American Northeast. Most of them have a long history, founded already during the colonial period. Prestigious universities, known for academic excellence and selectivity in admissions. Traditional, yes. But there is a revolution going on here at Yale.
Fantastic.
We all think of the Volvo Environment Prize as the Nobel Prize for environmental sciences. So it was crystal clear to me within 15 seconds of why he had won this prize.
I was thrilled. We're all thrilled. Paul is such a wonderful example of how a university professor can conduct innovative research and then catalyze that research into solutions.
Everything that we see, touch and feel is a chemical. whether it's the furniture around us, the clothes we wear, or the electronics that we use. Modern chemistry has been creating technological miracles, increasing the quality of life for humans. But its performance has also led to unintended consequences: pollution, waste, and poisoning.
The enormity of the tragedy of Bhopal, India is becoming more apparent this morning. Authorities now say the toxic gas that escaped from a Union Carbide plant on Monday has killed at least 1,600 people, and they say another 50,000 people may suffer serious after effects such as blindness and sterility.
More major revelations. First, America's biggest oil company secretly uses what are known as forever chemicals. They're used by industry in everything from non-stick pans through waterproof clothing to cosmetics, even though safer alternatives now exist.
We've done things so wrong for so long, we've got nothing but opportunities.
Taking common items that are used in industry or used in household products that may be toxic if they end up in the environment, and modifying their chemical structure slightly to reduce their toxicity but maintain their utility. That's the whole principle of green chemistry. And the father of green chemistry, of course, is our awardee, Paul Anastas.
When you replace a carcinogen with a sugar or starch to make a bio-based plastic, that's green chemistry. But it's not just about designing the products, it's also redesigning the way we make those products. There's reasons why nature does things differently than we do. You don't see large clouds of chlorine, you don't see lakes of cyanide, because nature does things by imparting reactivity when and where it needs it. So we don't have all of this reactivity and toxicity in nature-based chemistry.
Together with John Warner, Paul Anastas has developed the 12 Principles of Green Chemistry, a framework widely used by industry and universities.
It wasn't like we must have 12, but it's now a science. There are, I think, over 12 journals dedicated to green chemistry now. There's over 60 textbooks. Paul has done amazing work to get this to this point where it is today.
Paul Anastas has also championed the development of green chemistry networks operating in more than 30 countries, resulting in numerous actions, such as creating new bio-based plastics. But the ultimate challenge is CO2.
We have a petroleum-based economy currently. So does green chemistry use approaches to make new ways of making fuels? Absolutely. And it's not using crops or things that will compete with food or feed or land use options, but there's other ways as well. Using CO2 itself, using carbon dioxide and converting that into new synthetic fuels, not only gets away from petroleum, but also allows you to use the waste of CO2 as a fuel.
Carbon dioxide can be more than waste, it can be an asset too. Actually, Air Company, we make a luxury vodka out of ethanol that's produced from carbon dioxide. Our product in the vodka is really the ethanol itself, not the vodka. The ethanol itself is what can be used as a feedstock for hundreds of other things. One of the things right now is making sustainable aviation fuel out of that alcohol. We're taking the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and using it to fly airplanes, so we're making it a completely circular fuel, carbon neutral fuel.
Green chemistry is useful in addressing climate change, not only by producing new kinds of fuels, but also looking at the entire spectrum of how we generate, store, and transport our energy. We're looking at new ways of energy storage. Certainly, yes, battery technology, but also storing energy in forms such as hydrogen and green hydrogen. But the biggest reason that I am most optimistic is because I am part of a global green chemistry community, that there are practitioners around the world creating new green chemistry solutions, something that is motivating people to get higher performance, higher function, and yes, higher profitability.
One is never surprised about anything about Paul. He's always really keen to transfer the message of green chemistry to everybody.
Absolutely.
We will soon get to know more about our laureate. But first, we have the pleasure of having with us musical artist Christina Issa.
There will be many other nights like this, and I'll be standing here with someone new. There will be other songs to sing, and other fall and other spring, but there will never be another you. There will be other lips that I may kiss, but they won't thrill me like yours used to do. Yes, I may dream a million dreams, but how can they come true if there will never ever be another you? Yes, I may dream a million dreams, but how can they come true if there will never ever be, if there will never ever be, if there will never ever be another.
Our laureate this year is not only professor at Yale School of the Environment, he is also professor at the Yale School of Public Health. So we asked the dean there about his view on both green chemistry and public health.
Public health is all about prevention and all about community level intervention. That's what's different about public health and medicine. If you're sick, you want a doctor and a nurse. But if your community has a problem, you'd like an epidemiologist or environmental health scientist. And green chemistry is all about reducing risk in the environment. So if you have a moiety chemical compound that maybe is good for lubricants in machinery, but if they leach into the environment, they're toxic to plants or animals, then somebody like Paul Anastas will study that moiety and alter a component of the chemical and retain the lubricant qualities, but eliminate or radically reduce the toxic elements. Now, isn't that a good idea? So the notion of green chemistry, taking this massive volume of chemicals in our environment, a fraction of which are dangerous and toxic, changing those and retaining their positive features. That's what your green chemistry is all about.
Now, let's get to know our laureate a little bit better. Who is Professor Anastas?
I grew up in this little town south of Boston called Quincy. I love music, and I was a trumpet player from the time that I was very young. Quincy was separated from Boston by this river and this wonderful wetlands. And if you go up to where I was born, you won't see them. The bulldozers rolled in when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I was absolutely devastated. My father was a high school biology teacher. And he said, you know, if you really care about something, you care enough to learn about it. So at that point, I really knew that I was going to be a scientist, and a scientist focused on the environment. One of the things that I get motivated by is by finding connections. Once you see the interconnectivity, you can see how those things can build off each other. The reason that I have such a diversity of books and the reason that I have such a diverse taste in music and things like that is because I love to see that interconnectivity. And quite frankly, sustainability is the ultimate in systems nested in systems nested in systems. And if we don't understand that these systems challenges need system solutions, we're not going to get where we need to be fast enough.
This is something that we really need to change our way of thinking and apply it to a better and more sustainable future.
It's almost like he's surrounded by this bubble of this colorful energy, very inspired and refreshing.
For someone who doesn't know Paul, I would describe him as being someone who has the most remarkable youthful energy and positive can-do outlook when it comes to how we make things.
I admire his determination and optimism.
He's super creative in his personal life as well as his professional life. He builds things. He uses a lathe to make pens, and he created a kayak out of nothing but wood and skin and sinew. He writes songs. And most importantly, he's married to a brilliant scientist.
You can't separate Paul from his family and friends, particularly his family. The quality that helps make him who he is, which means that the things he achieves is due in large part to that, to his heart.
In fact, this vision of green chemistry can bring us all together.
Guess what? In some cases, you'll need policy.
You can take environmental activists and industrial capitalists, and we can all work together.
There is an ongoing revolution considering green chemistry. And to be very frank, there is no option. In the future, we need to do that transition.
The real success for green chemistry will be if it disappears.
The term is going to go away because it is simply the way that we do things. Using toxic substances and generating toxic products, we want the day when that will be abhorrent and absurd. That is what we're striving for. And, 20 years in the future sounds like a good target.
Martin, Professor Anastas, he will soon be with us. He's this year's laureate, obviously, but since we have done this now for 32 years, there are quite a few before him. What are your thoughts about this?
First and foremost, seeing Professor Anastas in his home turf, getting very inspired and impressed. With this year, laureate, we are actually summing up to 48 fantastic scientists and researchers that are doing great progress, obviously, for the sustainability challenges. And I appreciated really what Paul Anastas said also. The sustainability is the ultimate interconnectivity, and also that system problems need system solutions. And that is something that is very close to my heart. So great to just listen and be inspired by Professor Anastas.
Excellent. And before we actually meet with Professor Anastas here today, let's have a look at some of those that gone before him. And now, finally, it's time to welcome Professor Anastas. It's great to have you here in person with us today. Martin, as the chairman of the Volvo Environment Prize Foundation, here is ready with the award. But before we will have the official handover, let's hear the prize jury citation from the chairman of the prize jury, Professor Will Steffen in Canberra, Australia.
Hello, Nicholas. It will be my pleasure. This is a slightly shorter version. The full citation is on our website. Adopting benign by design techniques, Paul Anastas is the global pioneer of green chemistry, a systems approach to sustainability that tackles pollution problems at their source. His research is revolutionizing the chemical industry, from fundamental reaction methods to applications as diverse as processing foods and producing green hydrogen. In his own lab, Professor Anastas and his students have developed generic molecular designs for reduced toxicity. From flavors to fragrances and fuels, Professor Anastas has pioneered the use of earth-abundant catalysts, such as copper, rather than rare earth metals for breaking down lignin, vastly reducing both air and water pollution from the processes and bringing costs down. The ultimate global waste chemical is carbon dioxide, driving the destabilization of the climate system and ocean acidification. Professor Anastas has contributed to this enormous challenge, developing new methods of chemical synthesis using carbon dioxide as a feedstock for making natural products. The green chemistry seed that Paul Anastas has sown has grown internationally, with green chemistry research networks now operating in over 30 countries. Pollution from our globalized economy lies at the heart of the sustainability challenge. No one has done more to tackle this formidable challenge at its source than Professor Paul Anastas, the 2021 Volvo Environment Prize laureate.
Thank you very much, Will Steffen. And now, the award. It's a glass sculpture by designer Erika Lagerbjelke, a handmade diploma by artist Göran Dahlhov, and 1.5 million Swedish kronor. Martin, over to you.
Thank you, Niklas. And Professor Paul Anastas, it is with great honor and deep appreciation meeting the father of green chemistry, and also meeting a person that is representing deep knowledge, but also a pragmatic view on how we are working together to turn challenges into opportunities. So dear Paul, congratulations and thank you for your fantastic achievements.
Thank you so very much. And deep appreciation. Thank you.
Excellent. And now, Paul, I believe you would like to say something, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Nicholas. In the most important ways, we are what we do. Our actions define our identity. And if it is true that I have been recognized with the Volvo Environment Prize because of my actions in advancing green chemistry, then there are countless green chemists around the globe who are pursuing the same actions, who share equally in this tremendous honor. I dedicate this Volvo Environment Prize to all of them in their work, especially those pioneers who have been fighting the good fight for so long. I want to thank the Volvo Foundation. Thank you, Martin. Thank you to the Foundation for establishing this prize that has inspired so many for so long in the pursuit of environmental science. I especially want to thank the scientific committee and the jury, because when you are recognized by a collection of environmental legends, it makes that recognition that much more special. I want to thank my colleagues and friends at Yale University. I want to thank my mentors and my students, because mentors are catalysts and students are sometimes also mentors. Most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Julie, my daughter, Kennedy, my daughter, Akinna. The love you give to me convinces me every day that this is a world worth saving. But if there's one message I'd like to just send, it's that green chemistry solutions are available today to deal with some of the globe's most pressing problems. And all of those solutions are just a sliver of the power and the potential of future solutions that must be implemented at scale. We can design a new material basis to our society and our economy that is healthful rather than toxic, that is renewable rather than depleting, that is restorative rather than degrading. With that, I want to thank the Volvo Foundation once again for this immense honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So much.
Thank you. Please join Martin over there, because we have a couple of messages for you. And let's start with a message from the US Senate in Washington, D.C.
Hi, I'm United States Senator Ben Cardin from Maryland. I'm pleased to join you virtually in congratulating this year's recipient of the Volvo Environmental Prize, Paul Anestis, for his contribution to the field of green chemistry and sustainability. 2021 is a critical year for climate action globally and in the United States. Actions must be taken across all sectors of the economy to meet our ambitious goals to reduce emissions this decade. This means safer, smarter, lighter, and more efficient materials and chemistries. It is very much in the spirit of the award and of Paul's achievement today.
And we also have a message from the president of the Yale University, Peter Salovey.
Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Salovey, president of Yale University. On behalf of Yale's faculty, students, staff, and alumni, I extend our best wishes to Professor Paul Anestis on receiving the 2021 Volvo Environment Prize. Professor Anestis, the Teresa and H. John Heinz Professor in the Practice of Chemistry for the Environment, holds joint appointments at the Yale School of the Environment and the Yale School of Public Health. His work cuts across these domains, helping us create a more sustainable planet and live healthier lives. As the founder of green chemistry, Professor Anestis has changed his discipline, but he also has pioneered ideas that extend well beyond the university and his field. Among the many differences he has made in the world, his work has led to the prevention of millions of tons of hazardous waste from being released into the environment. His ideas have reshaped the way we educate future scientists and leaders, ensuring that the next generation is prepared to make their own innovative breakthroughs. And by forging partnerships with industry, he has extended the reach of his research even further. Professor Anestis' achievements represent Yale's aspirations for university-wide efforts dedicated to mitigating the harmful effects of climate change, helping build resilient systems, and collaborating with others to solve urgent challenges. His vital research improves lives today and for future generations, exemplifying Yale's mission in the world. The Volvo Prize is a well-deserved recognition of his global leadership and impact. Thank you, Paul, for your many contributions, and congratulations.
Some wonderful words there. And now it's time for some wonderful music. Christina Issa is going to perform a song by Simon and Garfunkel. But listen carefully now, Paul, because the lyrics are rewritten just for you.
Let us be lovers, we'll marry our fortunes together. I've got some real estate here in my bag. So we bought a pack of cigarettes and Mrs. Wagner pies. And we walked out to look for
Kathy, I sat as we boarded a Volvo in Sweden. Father of green chemistry's coming to town. He doesn't believe that this thing will be alright. He believes everything can be okay. Laughing at the bars, playing games with the faces. She said that man in the gravity to us as by. Oh, I said be careful, this bow tie is really a camera. Kathy, I'm lost, I said, though I know she was sleeping. I'm empty and aching and I don't know why. Counting the cars at the New Year's turn, but they've all gone to look for America. They've all gone to look for America. They all come to look for America.
Thank you so much, Christina Issa, Stefan Sporsén, and Simon Ljungan. And now we turn to the panel discussion, Green Chemistry, Climate Change, and the Goal of Net Zero Emissions. And here are our panelists. Fernando Gomez, Head of Chemical Industry Program at the World Economic Forum. Welcome, Fernando. Indy Burke, Dean at the Yale School of the Environment. Welcome. And Anja Verena Mudring, Professor, Head of Physical Materials Chemistry at the Stockholm University. Welcome, Anja. And of course, our laureate, Paul and Estas. Welcome you as well. Thank you all for participating. Paul, let's start here a little bit in the studio. I know that some people believe that green chemistry should be all about minimizing the use of chemicals. What is your message to them?
Well, from the beginning, green chemistry has never been about what you have to reduce, what you have to eliminate, what you have to ban, what you have to phase out. It's always been about what you can design, invent, and innovate. It's always been about creativity, about how you get that environmental performance and that functional performance both at the same time.
Great, so it's about creativity and actually getting the right chemicals there. Right?
Exactly.
And Fernando, if I turn to you, at the World Economic Forum, you're heading up the chemical industry program, and the chemical industry has been criticized over the years for toxic emissions. And how is the industry in general acting today? I mean, for example, issues such as plastic pollution and the release of toxic substances.
Yeah, Nicholas, lots of activity. And actually, those two cases are a bit different. Plastic pollution is probably a bit more of a systemic failure, while initial like a release is definitely the materialization of a risk. Now, on the latter one, what we see is, obviously, these two are managed differently. So on the latter one, what we see is lots of practices, improvements within companies and basically anybody who handles substances. On the former, on the plastics pollution issue, much more systemic with action much more distributed. It's not a single actor. And that also requires innovation programs that are just as distributed. Things that need to happen in elementary school classrooms, at the regulator, in the industry, and of course at the level of consumers like you and me.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. Anja, I'm turning to you now. Fernando touched upon this need of the development of new materials, and you are working in the development of green chemistry applications, such as for new materials. What do you think we will see in practical use in the coming years?
I believe what is important, just as Fernando mentioned, we are all consumers, and what we will be seeing and are seeing right now is that increasingly people like you and me as consumers want to align their personal conviction and lifestyle with the product choice and consumption. And that is going towards a more sustainable way of life. Thus, I think this is what we see, and that's where we all want to contribute and with our research.
Yeah. Thank you, Anja. And Indy, can you maybe build a little bit upon this? We know that many companies today are deeply involved in reducing their own footprint of CO2 and becoming more environmentally sustainable. What can academia contribute with that companies are not already doing?
Yeah, I think, thank you for the question. It's a great one. And I think that academia can be a trusted source of information, and it's crucial to have a place to go to answer questions about the science. So, for instance, where are the biggest potential carbon sinks biologically, socially, and technologically and geologically? And then what are the economic costs? What are the life cycle analyses? And universities can provide this kind of information without being in the business of, for instance, selling carbon credits. We can identify where the best potential solutions lie and then conduct the kinds of research on where the policy incentives could lie to get companies more engaged in reaching carbon neutrality.
Thanks, Indy. It seems clear that we need actually to tackle all these issues in all fronts in order to raise the challenge here of sustainability. And Paul, coming back to you again, I can't help but think about the example that we saw earlier on here in the film, actually using carbon dioxide and shifting it over into a fuel for air transport. And let's face it, it's still very expensive to transform CO2 into useful material, isn't it? And let me put it like this. Do you think it will be possible to do this cost efficiently at scale within 5-10 years?
You know, I think that there's been something very close to a technological miracle that's happened in recent years. Okay. Something that we've known for millennia, that carbon dioxide is not reactive and can't be transformed. Well, what we've shown, green chemists around the world have shown that no, you can transform something that has been one of our greatest problems, one of our greatest wastes, into a feedstock. One of our feedstocks with the highest potential to make all kinds of things, not just fuels, but building materials and so many other things. So that, I'll say, almost technological miracle is something that I have no doubt that we will be able to implement that in different ways over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's really inspiring to hear. Fernando, turning to you then. The greatest waste turned into the greatest feedstock. What is your view there? What do you think is the industrial perspective? Will you agree with Paul? Start with.
I can only agree with Paul there, Nicholas. I think I've always said that we have to be optimists within the boundaries of thermodynamics and kinetics. And physical chemistry. And I think this is a perfect opportunity. CO2 into polymer, CO2 in building blocks. We're seeing it now, and I share that view. Over the next half a decade, 1 decade, we're going to see volumes and really the scale up of some of those exciting innovations that we see. Now, I mentioned before that without the other elements, the right policy frameworks, the innovation on the financing side, the very creative integration into chains, science and technology innovation is the sound of one hand clapping. And I think this is the moment for all of us to come together and see this as a real systemic advancement once again. So I'm with Paul, bullish about it, and I think we have a great opportunity there to turn CO2 into a lot more valuable things.
And to do it by making it into commercial products, right? So it's obvious that if we are to succeed, the solution developed needs to be a commercial success, if nothing else. Anja, is green chemistry more expensive than traditional chemistry?
No, in contrast, I believe that green chemistry actually is more economic in the long run compared to traditional chemistry. Because what we're learning now with the tools of green chemistry is really that we have an inspiring toolbox as chemists for chemical transformations, a way to rethink traditional chemistry and make it more efficient and economic. Just think of we're turning waste into valuable chemicals. We're looking at production processes that create less waste. So this is more economic. Also looking at the energy efficiency. We're living in an energy crisis. Just considering this shows that green chemistry, in fact, can be an economic driver and make processes more economic.
That's very interesting, Anja. So let me do a follow-up question on that. If we are widening things out a little bit here, do you think that innovation in green chemistry then and new materials can be a significant contributor in achieving the net zero emissions of the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's very critical, and you see that with Paul has brought people around the globe together, and we are all rethinking, both in academia, in industry, we're collaborating, and we have one common goal, and that is a sustainable society. And in this, we want to contribute.
And Indy, if we talk about contributors, some people say that scientists should do science and not politics. What do you think is the role of universities for real? What role should the universities play in driving the issue of sustainability?
Well, I think universities are places where we can conduct solutions-focused scholarship. And some of that scholarship includes policy. These problems that we face today are very complex scientifically with respect to environmental health and with respect to justice. And we need creative scholars to work on policy solutions and then to analyze the potential outcomes of those policies for what the unintended consequences could be. The other role is that scholars like Paul, who study policy and science and how they work together, can engage in public service, as Paul has for the U.S. government and other scholars here at Yale do. And then finally, we can be neutral conveners for the discussions and the debates about politics. We serve a really special role in that way as well.
Absolutely, I agree. Fernando, then, you work closely with major companies worldwide and also with many other stakeholders through the World Economic Forum platform. And we know now we will need much more energy, and the demand for energy and materials will increase as we go forward. Are we going to be able to make this work, you think? A rather short answer, please.
I think we'll make it work. I think we need to do three things. I think we need to rebalance the beta demand patterns, in many cases, performance expectations. That's one. We need to change every linear to circular path as possible as we interconvert carbon forms. And above all, we need to think much more comprehensively about the carbon economy, a way in which we see the energy life of carbon, the materials life of carbon, and the biological life of carbon in a single place. I think that's a super opportunity to optimize the entire system.
Excellent. Turning to Paul then. Do you agree? Can we make this work?
there is no doubt in my mind that green chemistry has shown what's possible. And I think we can, because it's possible, and we will, because we must.
That's great. Thank you very much. That has to be the final comment of this discussion. Thank you so much, dear panelists, for being with us here at the Volvo Environment Prize Award ceremony in Gothenburg, Sweden. Thank you. Now, Martin, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Niklas. And on behalf of the Volvo Environment Prize Foundation, first and foremost, I would like to thank everyone involved behind the scenes. It was just great also to hear the special version to Paul from Simon, Stefan, and Christina. Fantastic. And also, and where we started, we believe in science, and I think that this hour has shown why we do so. The progress into the new fields of green chemistry is pioneering and important. And as a business leader, I see great use of that, turning our society into a fossil-free society. But also, I remain an optimist, like Professor Paul and Nastas. If we work together, we can do it, and we can speed up the speed. And that is keeping us also in the foundation motivated to continue our efforts to support science and all fantastic scientists in their relentless work to meet the sustainability challenge. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.
We live in a political world